Hello and welcome into another edition of the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as a worrier. I am a worrier. This man next to me is a much more reasonable person than I am. It is your vice mayor and your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. Jesse, I did not sleep well last night. I stayed up very late texting you and Damon, especially Damon. We went off on our own little conversation after you dropped off because of Damon's feelings about this whole situation. Of course, a big ski to you all. I got to get that out of here, and we thank you guys for being here. Am I overreacting, Jesse, to what we saw on Geraldo Perdomo's Instagram story yesterday?
I mean, I feel like I have a standing answer to whenever you ask me that question.
Whenever
am I overreacting
Jesse,
to Blake?
Am I overreacting?
It's generally safe for me to just say yes. And I do think that standard response applies in this situation as well. Although I will admit that there were some rumblings about this on Twitter. I went over to Geraldo Perdomo's Instagram story and took a look for myself, and I was like, "All right, I see where you're coming from.
Okay, I'm not crazy.
You're not, Jacob, you're not crazy. No.
This is what we saw last night. This was just something that started, I don't know, around, I guess like 10 o'clock, not 10 o'clock, like 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, sometime around that time.
Sometime in the evening.
Sometimes in the evening. He just started posting pictures to his Instagram story of all of his teammates.
Yeah.
And they all had captions. They all had individual kind of.
And he's in basically, as you can see, he's in basically all of these pictures with these teammates.
Right. And he's tagging every one of them. He's saying stuff, about each guy. Here's Alec Thomas, AT with the handshakes, Corbin Carroll, the man. This is the kind of post you post when you are leaving a team. This is not something that, it's the start of spring training and I'm feeling a little emotional. I'm glad to be back around the boys. Let's post some stuff up here that just gives a shout out to all of my teammates. Like he didn't miss anybody, Jesse. There's Josh Rojas. He didn't miss anybody. This is infuriating to me how much this makes me worry that this is the end of Geraldo Perdomo's time in a Diamondbacks uniform. But I feel like that's very overreactionary. I feel like it is an overreaction to, of course, this. But I mean, come on. He didn't miss. Evan Longoria is covered. I mean, El Abuelo.
El Abuelo. I do think that there are some players in here that are no longer on the team.
True.
Which was one. If you were being traded, then you'd say farewell to the. There's this video in here which is funny. But yeah, like if you were being traded in your Instagram farewell story, you would probably include the players that you are actually leaving. As opposed to
Fair.
Would you include Evan Longoria when you weren't likely going to be playing with him anyway? So yes. I was really trying to read into this alongside you. But yes, if Geraldo Perdomo were to be traded, I imagine this is something like what his Instagram story would look like.
Yes,
that is kind of undeniable. But I don't think it's like if he were traded, I think this is what it would look like. But just because he did this on Instagram, I don't think that means he was traded. So it's like the arrow goes one way, but not the other in my mind.
Elise says, I mean, Lourdes posted a whole goodbye post and he ended up re-signing with us like a month later. So maybe it's just their thing. We know that.
But that's different because Lourdes was a free agent. Geraldo Perdomo is not at all a free agent.
Right. And so I feel like everything about this, because Perdomo wasn't here in the United States. Ketel Marte wasn't here in the United States. And these guys are all back. They're all around each other. They're here early. They're here voluntarily. And I think that there's just a palpable excitement amongst them about what they accomplished last postseason and what this season could look like for them. I mean, this is an exciting time for a team that still kind of was coming together last year in August, right? And now not only have they pretty much solidified all those same pieces that got them as far as they got, but now they're adding those pieces to it. If I was a player on the team like Jerry P, I would be very excited about the additions that they made and coming back and being around all my teammates. I mean, hell, who am I? Like, I literally can't go anywhere without posting pictures of me and my friends being out doing stuff just to, I guess, prove that I still live life. You know what I mean? But like, I get it. It's just, it was concerning, and it didn't concern me, just me. There were a lot of people online
Damon was very stressed out about
this. Concerned. Do you realize that we would have just had to find a new producer
if the Diamondbacks ever trade Geraldo Perdomo? Damon is going to he's no longer going to be producer of the show. That would be the end. Groundhog Mama says he's just a happy guy, which I think is probably the best explanation for this. Like, Geraldo Perdomo just really seems to love his teammates, and when you love the people that you play with, when you enjoy being around them, you'll post on your Instagram story a whole bunch of pictures with some nice words and
that's why I never post any pictures of Jesse on there. That's right. I mean,
right. Yeah,
it makes sense the other way as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you dislike people, then you certainly wouldn't have done anything like this.
It would be crazy to do that. It would be crazy to do that. I guess to play devil's advocate, as we do so often on the show, the other question here is that why would Perdomo no longer be a part of this team? If that was the case, it would be obviously via some sort of trade. And what would a trade for Perdomo even look like? Where is his value at? I feel like his value is potentially fairly high based on the fact that he was an all-star last year. Again, the team went to the World Series. It's a time for pretty much every player on the roster's value to be fairly high after the run that they had, and especially all of those guys that ended up on the all-star team last year. It also feels like, the Diamondbacks do have Jordan Lawler waiting, as their future shortstop. So there are some things that make sense, but the timing doesn't make sense. And, of course, what would they get back for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all those things. There very well may come a day where it does make sense for the Diamondbacks to at least explore a trade for Geraldo Perdomo. But it doesn't feel like that day is today. Mm-hmm. If the Diamondbacks traded Geraldo Perdomo tomorrow, it would be like, all right, well, maybe you were able to add some sort of piece that is helpful. You'd expect to get a decent amount of value in exchange for him. But I mean, at this stage, if you trade Geraldo Perdomo, who's your opening day shortstop, right? You're putting a lot of pressure at that point.
That's on Jordan Lawler.
On Jordan Lawler, and there's some other guys in the mix there as well. There's Blaze Alexander and, Kevin Newman. There's some other guys there as well. But yeah, the D-backs don't seem nearly stable enough at shortstop right now to move on from Perdomo and not bring in someone to replace him. So in that sense, a trade doesn't really make sense to me right now. And then, as you also said, what would the Diamondbacks get? Like, at this stage in the offseason, if you were to trade one of your better young position players,
what are you getting?
What are you doing it for? Like, are you getting another starting pitcher? I know, Mike talked at the beginning of the offseason about wanting to get 2 starting pitchers instead of 1. I guess you're maybe kind of trying to build a super starting rotation at that point.
Sure.
Are you
like a Dylan Cease, for instance, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, right? I think it'd have to be more than just Perdomo for Dylan Cease.
No, I know that's definitely the case, but that would be my point. Is that I feel like the only instance where they would even consider that would be to maybe make one of those trades that they think, we kind of have to pull the trigger on this. We don't have any other choice.
Sure.
This is too good to pass up in this moment. And
maybe like a back end reliever, I could see, like, if you're trying to really add some bulk to the back end. That's something I have kind of always wanted to see the team do this offseason. But even that, it's like, all right, you're going to trade a shortstop so that you have a better bullpen, but then what are you doing at shortstop?
Right.
We did talk about Perdomo as when the Randy Arozarena rumors were floating around a little bit. There was a day, I think you were out of town. Patrick Lyons was filling in, and he and I had both come up with Geraldo Perdomo as a potential centerpiece there. The Rays have some questions at shortstop. I know they've made some moves this offseason, but yeah, even then it was kind of hard to see, like, okay, if the Diamondbacks traded Perdomo for Rosarena, what would they do at shortstop?
Yeah.
And those same questions certainly exist today.
Joey had a great question. He said not on topic, but it is something we've been asked several times lately, and we haven't really addressed it because we don't have any concrete answers. But he asked, any news on games being aired on TV yet? Been screwed by Dish Network, having to listen on the radio for the last few years. I am so tired of being in the middle of petty squabbles between satellite providers and channels.
We didn't do it, all right?
Well, no, I mean, I feel that way too. I went through this with Channel 12 on DirecTV for like months. And every time I turned on Channel 12, it was just some BS thing up there. I don't know. As it stands right now, I think the last word we had was the Diamondbacks have a lot of suitors for potential regional sports network partners, but no decisions yet. They did say Arizona Sports is one of their options, or Arizona Family Sports. So they could end up on the same channel right now as the Suns, but nothing there. For the most part, it sounds like they're going to proceed this season as they did last year. So there is still that channel. Like, I know they've added that extra channel for it to air on cable and such. So however you were getting it, unfortunately, like you said, you were screwed by Dish Network. So I think for at least the short term, that's how they're going to proceed. But hopefully we have some change in direction to that, or some update before the end of the.
We're still waiting on a few updates, man. We're just the ballpark news. Still haven't gotten a ton of clarity there. The TV situation. Hopefully, I mean, we will be talking with at least based on what's happened last year, and I think they've done this generally. We typically hear from Derek Hall and Ken Kendrick at some point in February, toward the beginning of spring training. So we might only be a week or two from talking with them again, and maybe they'll have some update at that point.
Yep, we are 1 week away now from
1 week from today,
yep.
Derek.
Yep.
1 week from today.
Gabriel says, I want my Diamondbacks chant on 3 TV again. We all need that. We all absolutely need that.
Wait, I don't remember that.
What was
it? I don't remember that.
You don't remember
what was
that?
it? Chant it for me, Derek.
It was I want. What do you mean? I'm not chanting on command for you. But it was the Suns and the Diamondbacks have always been kind of like TV partners, and I do kind of want them to be on the same channel as the Suns. And of course, we have this delightful photo that Jacob pulled for us of speaking of Suns and Diamondbacks action. We got Corbin Carroll and Gabriel Moreno, our very own Gabby and Corbin. Just looking adorable.
That's an incredible that
just
one is
adorable.
An incredible picture. I believe Merrill Kelly was also at the Suns game yesterday. Zach Gallen and Brandon Pfaadt, I believe, were at the
fantastic.
We're out golfing, doing that whole thing. So
they were out there golfing. Do we have that incredible shot of Zach Gallen missing the putt?
I can get it.
You get that for me because we need to show the world that. But I love this brewing friendship between Gabby and Corbin. I love the idea of there being a language barrier, but them both potentially teaching each other like English and Spanish better. Like Corbin's getting better at his Spanish and Gabby's getting better at his English there.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a delightful relationship. And again, there's a lot of participation from the Diamondbacks and all this stuff. Here's a hilarious picture of Zach Gallen missing a putt in front of all of the mascots, it looks like. I don't know who's more disappointed in him, Baxter or himself.
Yeah, I mean, even Baxter's in on this. You'd think that Baxter would have his back, right?
No. You know Baxter, Jesse. He has nobody's back. He's a scoundrel, that Bobcat.
You're saying he doesn't back the D-backs?
He doesn't. I mean, he's gotten a little tired of that after they called him Baxter. Okay, what do you expect? He's going to go the other direction. But,
that's fair.
Danielle with the crack whack. I want my D-backs. There's your chant for the Channel 3 thing. That's that. But let's stop speculating about Geraldo Perdomo because Damon is going to be very, very angry at us. So for now, this is just Perdomo getting excited about the season.
Yeah, this is just a kind of funny, very wholesome, very, very Geraldo Perdomo-esque kind of thing. And yeah, it probably means absolutely nothing in regard to a trade. But we had to at least mention it because it was a little weird, and I understand why some people were wondering about it.
I have a late night tonight, Jesse. I did not need to lose sleep over this, but I definitely did. I just found myself waking up around, like at 1 and then again at 2, just thinking what a trade would be. I cried a couple of times. It wasn't a good night, but Geraldo Perdomo, he means a lot to this team, and of course
he does mean a lot.
That's the big thing about a guy like that is someone said he's a clubhouse guy. He absolutely is a clubhouse guy.
He really emerged as kind of a leader. Even though he was obviously only 23 years old, one of the younger guys. Maybe he's 24 now. One of the younger guys on the team, nonetheless. And but that was kind of a narrative throughout the season. Perdomo taking charge in certain situations and helping pitchers, kind of rein things in when things weren't going so well. He does mean a lot to the Diamondbacks. He was an all-star. He didn't have a good second half of the season. But yeah, he's a big part of this team. And as we said, I don't think it makes really any sense for them to move on from him right now.
He was in the mix of everything in the postseason. It felt like every rally got started.
He was
with
great in the
Perdomo.
postseason. Yeah. He reached base in the vast majority of the games the Diamondbacks played, and he was in the 9-hole. He was really setting the table for the top of the lineup for Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte really well. So yeah, I don't think people need to be too worried about this.
Pedro says T.O. Derek has scissoring and cursing to do later tonight. Didn't need the stress. He's absolutely right about that. I have pro wrestling to attend. But, of course, I'll take a nap or something here at the office. I do appreciate you guys being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Sorry to have worried you with our episode title. I think Haas said it right away. He said the clickbait worked.
Clickbait worked.
Clickbait worked on the edge of my seat now. Gotcha. We got you. Well, thank you for being here. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever we go live. Drop us a like, as Gabby said. He always loves when you do that. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe there as well. Leave us a review. We always appreciate those 5-star reviews. They help us out a ton. Of course, if you want to help yourself out a ton, stop by Illegal Pete's because Illegal Pete's is your go-to spot at all times of the years, from caterings to gift cards. They have the perfect thing you need, whether it is to feed yourself, feed your family, or you just want to stop by and check in on Damon because, of course, as we've addressed, he's always there on the patio. And maybe after this episode would be a great time to stop by and console him for what we said and what we speculated on. But Illegal Pete's has, of course, the strongest margaritas in Arizona, and they have mouth-watering food that will fill all of your heart's desires. So make sure to check out all of Illegal Pete's weekly deals. Kick the Monday blues with $3 margaritas all day long, or ease your way back into the week with $2 tacos every Tuesday. If you work in the healthcare or education field, take your team to lunch at Illegal Pete's every Tuesday. Enjoy buy one, get one free entrees. And don't forget to unwind after a long day at their happy hour, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. Illegal Pete's, your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer.
Do they have it in Vegas? I think Damon's okay right now.
He's probably not. I'm surprised he's not here in the chat yelling.
He's
at us.
He's
working,
they're on
right?
a show right now.
Yeah, he's busy.
But
it's probably for the best.
He's not okay. I can tell you that much.
I know he's not okay,
but he will be okay.
Do you want? I got my last text message from him was at 3:45 a.m.
Yeah, he's not okay.
And it was a lot of curse words. There were a lot of curse words in here.
He texted you at 3:45 a.m.
It's a long.
I think he texted me at like 2:30 a.m. the night before. So
yeah, he's a worried guy. But
the Cardinals crew, man, they work him hard.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
I mean, he's in Las Vegas. You don't really sleep in Las Vegas. You don't even know what time of day it is in Las Vegas.
That's fair.
I bet he thought both of those texts were going out at PM. I bet, based on the circa atmosphere and everything they got going on. But of course, you got to join us for some baseball games this year. We have all of our takeover events that we're going to be offering. But of course, great way to get your tickets to all events, including concerts, shows, musicals. Like I took my daughter to one that was probably way too old for her at 12 years old, but still had a great time. She had a blast. So make sure to check out all of the wonderful events you can attend through Game Time. It is the place for last minute ticket deals, and it is the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Of course, they offer great deals on those last minute tickets. When you have FOMO, you need to go to an event and you just want to make sure you're not getting, not paying double, triple, quadruple of what the face value of your tickets are. You can snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download their app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. If you want to join me at pro wrestling tonight, maybe a great place to get your tickets would be on Game Time for that show that starts, I think, at like 5 o'clock. So get down and check out what Game Time has to offer. Jesse, we've talked about projections at times, really liking parts of this team, really not liking parts of this team, but the Pacoda projections have dropped, and there's some things that favor the Diamondbacks quite a bit, and a couple of things that are fairly ugly that we don't really want to talk about, but we are going to have to address. Let's take a look, though. Do you want to start off with the standings? Do we want to start with standings?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
Right.
Let's go NL West. What do we got in the NL West here from our friends over at Pacoda? This is done by Baseball Prospectus. For those who don't know, the LA Dodgers are projected for 101.9 wins.
That's such a crazy projection to
that's outrageous. That's ridiculous, because a projection is supposed to be like
conservative,
like the 50th percentile. It's the mid-range outcome.
Yeah,
right. It's not saying that every team is going to win this exact number of games, but it's supposed to be like right in the middle of kind of all of the possible,
basically what the highest likelihood of them winning is, right?
Yeah, essentially. And to put like that middle ground for the Dodgers at 102 wins is kind of outrageous, but says a lot about how talented that team is. No huge surprise there, frankly.
They're just men, Jesse. They're just ordinary men.
They are not just ordinary men, Derek. But the Diamondbacks are in second place here at 85.3 wins projected. So 85 and 77 is essentially the record projection for the D-backs in 2024. The Giants a few wins behind that at 81 and 81. Padres at 80 and 82. Pacoda has them in fourth place, and then the Rockies at 58 and 104. That's even as good as the Dodgers projection is. That is even worse than how good that one is. That is exceptionally poor.
The amount of despair, the lack of hope there as a Colorado Rockies fan. You already know your team is bad, and you already know your owner isn't going to do much in order to make that team better, right? But then you have to look at that, and like you said, that's the median outcome. You mean to tell me there's a darker outcome? There's a darker outline?
Yeah, there are a lot of darker outcomes.
My God,
for the Rockies, it's a bad baseball team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fangraphs has the Diamondbacks a little below 84. I think it would maybe round up to 84 wins right now. So Pacoda's a little higher on the Diamondbacks, putting them at just over 85 wins for 2024. And 85 probably doesn't sound all that great. I mean, we saw the results of that survey that we took. A lot of people, about half of you, voted that the Diamondbacks would finish with 90 or more wins. So 85 might seem a little bit low even to some people, but in terms of a like mid-range outcome that these computer things are projecting, 85 is really pretty strong.
Yeah, and honestly, that's that would appear based on other projections in the National League.
Yeah,
to get the Diamondbacks into the playoffs. I think with the way that the NL West is and the way it's going to be for a number of years, that's all that we can really play for at this point. Winning the division on a year where maybe the Diamondback or the Dodgers slip up and aren't as good as they're projected to be might be a possibility, but it feels like this is the path that they're always going to kind of have to pursue.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does have playoff your percent chance of making the playoffs. It had that at 60.6% for the Diamondbacks. So entering the season with a greater than 50% chance of making the playoffs. I know everyone is really expecting this team to make it at this point.
Sure.
But that's still pretty good. That's something we haven't seen in a long time for this team. I think in 2023, their chance of making the playoffs was somewhere like 15-20%, depending on which outlet you looked at entering the season. So 60 is an enormous upgrade over where they've been recently.
We also have the National League Central and East standings from the Pacoda projections. Let's take a look at the Central standings.
These are interesting.
Because what you got here is not a lot of good baseball being played in the National League Central. The St. Louis Cardinals right now being projected to win that division with 85 wins. You got the Cubs going 80 and 82 and being the second place team. Essentially every team in the division outside of the Cardinals having a losing record. The Milwaukee Brewers being 79 and 83. You have the Cincinnati Reds at 78 and 83, which is a little egregious. I would say a little for a team that kind of has been on the rise and probably, I mean, I would imagine would forecast to be better next year than they were this year, but who knows? And then the Pittsburgh Pirates at 72 and 89 or 90, 72 and 90. Basically all kind of right there together. Like a whole difference of 8 games between second place and last place, but an odd selection for the Cardinals to be the number 1 pick. I mean, obviously last year they were kind of the favorite and then they had a pretty terrible season, but have they really like done enough during this offseason to be projected as the division winner?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they have.
I mean, they have. Yes, obviously, the computer thinks so.
Yeah.
Do you think so though?
It's just it's a bad division. Obviously, all those top 4 teams are all clustered together very, very closely. There's a lot of. I mean, I could see the Reds winning the Central. I could see the Brewers. I could see the Cubs, the Cardinals. All of those are very, very possible in my mind. I do think the Cardinals are probably at the top of the list for me as of today. No, their starting rotation additions weren't the best, but they do have Sonny Gray at the top now. Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn should at least be able to eat some innings that the last year's staff wasn't really able to do as well. And I still believe in Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado and Lars Nootbaar and Nolan Gorman and what Jordan Walker could be. When I look at the Cardinals lineup, I see not only a decent ceiling but a decent floor too. Whereas you look at the Reds lineup, for example, the ceiling there is exceptionally high, but the floor is probably lower. You don't know exactly what Elly De La Cruz looks like in year 2. Can Matt McLain come back and be as good as he was, in year 1 before getting hurt? There's more questions with Cincinnati. Whereas with the Cardinals, it's like, all right, this isn't, they didn't have the offseason that I'm sure Cardinals fans would have wanted, but they did enough to win or to at least be favorites in a division that is just not very good right now.
It's fair. All right, now let's take a look at the NL East standings projections from Pacoda because, again, some interesting things here, including, obviously, Atlanta Braves favored to win that division. They are projected to have 100 wins, so we got 2 100 projections seasons from 2 teams in the National League because, of course. Then you have the Phillies at 85 and 77. New York Mets at 83 and 78 or 83 and 79. Miami at 80 and 82. And then Washington at a distant 5th place with 58 wins. Philadelphia being projected to have 85 wins. Jesse, what are your thoughts on that, on the Diamondbacks having that edge?
I absolutely was a little surprised to see that. They have the Diamondbacks at 85.3 wins, the Phillies at 85.0.
Does that make them the fourth? Does it make them the first wild card team? Technically, in these projections,
in these projections, the Diamondbacks are the first wild card team. They also have the 3rd highest win total projection. They beat the Cardinals by 0.1 and the Phillies by 0.3. Technically, according to Pacoda, it's the Dodgers and the Braves, and then granted a pretty sizable gap, and then the Arizona Diamondbacks as the 3rd best team in the National League, which is, I mean, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, about as good as you probably could have seen this playing out. Yeah. And the Phillies in particular, like, I think of the Phillies, if I'm being honest, as being a little bit better than the Diamondbacks in terms of just the talent on that roster. I think the bullpen in particular, the Phillies bullpen is just so deep in a way that the Diamondbacks isn't. But looking a little closer at some of the numbers, Pacoda just doesn't like the Phillies position player group as much as there's a big difference there between it actually likes Phillies pitchers better than the Diamondbacks pitchers, but it likes the Diamondbacks position player group way more. You have guys like Nick Castellanos, who you don't know how much you're going to get there. Brandon Marsh is someone that Pacoda is not really very high on. Kyle Schwarber, the offensive projections there are good, but obviously you're not getting much defensively. So on the whole, the Diamondbacks just have a lot of valuable players who can run the bases, who can play good defense, and the Phillies are it's more of a hit first profile. There's not as much value from a defense and base running standpoint, and that comes through here. Pacoda sees that the Diamondbacks is the better team.
When you talk about valuable position players, of course everybody knows Corbin Carroll is going to be up there for the Diamondbacks, but he is in fact, the most valuable position player on the Arizona Diamondbacks, according to Pacoda. And he is tied for the 4th best position player in all of baseball.
Yeah, in terms of WARP, which we don't talk about WARP much, but there's FWAR, there's BWAR, there's F4, BWAR, and then there is actually a third WAR metric, which is WARP, that comes from Baseball Prospectus. That one isn't used as often.
Yeah. But it's when you leave a player out in the rain, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
But they do have Corbin Carroll projected for 5 WARP in 2024, which yes, as you said, was tied for the 4th most of any position player in all of baseball. So they certainly have a very, very high view of Corbin Carroll. Their projected slash line for him was 268, 355, 482. They project him for 20 homers, 77 RBI, 30 stolen bases, which feels really low.
It does.
These systems are always going to be pretty conservative on that front. But yeah, that's a pretty solid projection for Corbin Carroll.
I mean,
for sure.
And I'll say this, like, word is out about the Diamondbacks stealing, and they were kind of a team that at times was kind of highlighted last year as being one of the better stealing teams. So
yeah,
with
people
that,
know.
With that being part of, the scouting report and things like that, it is possible to see a regression from him in stolen bases. I don't know if he'll go back down to just getting 30, but these are conservative, projections. And again, that's still very good for Carroll to have that kind of sophomore season. And again, it continues with the whole team. Like they have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys projected to hit somewhere between 252 and 268 on this team, which actually feels very much like how the Diamondbacks found success last year. You didn't have necessarily one guy standing out head and shoulders above everybody else as much as it was a team effort from a bunch of young, talented players and Evan Longoria.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw him in there with young and talented. He's old and talented.
Yeah. He's in a bit of a category of his own for sure.
Abuelo. But anyway, but what are your thoughts here on the rest of the squad's projections and what kind of stood out to you from those guys?
Yeah, just pretty solid across the board. Like the Diamondbacks, as we've said many times, their lineup at this point is solid. There's not really holes in the lineup. 1 through 9, it's going to be pretty competitive all the way through, especially against righties. Against lefties, there's maybe a couple spots that we're less sure of, but against lefties, they also have guys who just absolutely destroy the baseball, like Ketel Marte and Gabriel Moreno, who could, maybe help make up for that. One guy who does stand out to me is Eugenio Suarez. Why does
Pacoda hate Eugenio Suarez? What does Pacoda have against Gino?
Yeah, that's hard for me to say.
209, 300, 381 slash line.
It's not a great slash line. There's still 21 homers there, which I guess makes sense. They're probably projecting him to.
He's a power guy. When he makes contact, he's going to hit it far.
Right. But yeah,
69 RBI.
They have Baseball Prospectus has their own. They have their own stat for everything. They don't do WRC plus. They do DRC plus.
Yeah.
That's their whole thing over there, and they have Suarez projected as the worst hitter out of the Diamondbacks kind of front 9 hitters: Carroll, Marte, Gurriel, Moreno, Walker, Thomas, Peterson, Perdomo. Suarez is the worst out of that group with a 91 DRC plus projection. So yeah, I think it's just the aging curve and Suarez getting a little bit older and the season he had last year.
Computers are ageist is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fine.
I mean, and they probably should be
Jesse, don't agree with the computers.
But there's some evidence that players as they age tend to not hit quite as well. But
what?
I don't think it's a sure thing that Suarez will fall off to this extent. The Diamondbacks are certainly hoping for things to go the other way, where, he was really, really good for the Mariners in 2022. Is he able to find a way in 2024 to kind of get back to being that player, at least maybe split the difference between the player he was last year and the player he was the year before?
I've said it before, and I will say it again. There's a good reason why old players come to Arizona. We got the Vortex in Sedona. We got Mayo Clinic. We got lots of advantages in medicine and things here. Get them better, get them back on track. excuse me. All jokes aside, I think Gino is going to have. Excuse me, sorry. Gino is going to have.
Which one of us is getting over a cold again?
Well,
Derek? You're not allowed to do
sick
this.
from being around Jesse all the time, huh?
That was straight in my ear.
I'm glad it was. I'm sure it's in their ears too. But Gino is one of those guys that I think is going to benefit from not having to play as often. You know, he had that anomaly last year where he played all 162 games, and that's one thing that will never happen in a Torey Lovullo lineup.
Yeah, probably not.
And I think, again, there's something to be said about hitting here at Chase Field versus, you know, in Seattle that is going to maybe have things go the other way. So I feel like this is one of the projections that I'm definitely hoping is way off. But Perdomo's projection's not great either. He has a 92 DRC plus, a slash line of 229, 330, 347, 6 home runs, 38 RBI.
330 on base percentage is low key pretty impressive for a guy who's projected to hit 229.
Yeah.
The fact that Perdomo walks as much as he does, it allows him to really get the most out of kind of who he is as a hitter. Of course, you'd like to see him develop into some more power, be able to impact the baseball more. But as Damon has advocated many times on this show, Perdomo has, you know, he does a lot of those little things. The fact that he does take so many walks makes him a lot more valuable player and helps make up for some of those deficiencies in other areas.
Pacoda also doesn't like that trade that we made with the Seattle Mariners very much because they have old friend, ex, spying on our ex, do a little spying on our exes here. Dominic Canzone, they have him slashing 261, 317, 437 with a 110 DRC plus, so an above average player. Someone that the Diamondbacks maybe shouldn't have parted ways with based on this.
Yeah. I mean, that slash line might not jump off the page, but again, these numbers are generally run pretty conservatively. That 110 DRC plus that you mentioned is higher than what is projected for Lourdes Gurriel.
Yeah,
it is the same as what is projected for Jock Peterson. So yeah, that's actually really pretty good. Like Pacoda is a big believer in Dom Canzone and what he can become. I know, you know, he had a few big moments with the Mariners in the second half last year. The numbers as a whole weren't great, but I think the Diamondbacks to some extent, like they, you know, I don't think they'd be shocked if Dom Canzone turned into a pretty decent hitter. You know, he's not giving you as much defensively or base running wise. So his profile is kind of always dependent on the bat. And there's a reason he's someone who's been on our radar quite a bit here over the last couple of years.
It's also hard to argue against that trade, considering it brought Paul Sewald here.
Yeah,
and we know the Arizona Diamondbacks probably wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks clearly needed to do the trade. We're not saying that wasn't the case for sure.
Speaking of another trade, another guy that we parted ways with, Dalton Varsho. He is projected to have a 233, 303, 424 slash line and hit or be 100 DRC plus players. So basically, right, like.
Yeah,
100
average,
league average, right?
Yeah.
Again, a guy that another trade that you have to say the Diamondbacks definitely won, considering Gurriel and Moreno are both part of this team. They're both projected to have a better season than Varsh, and their value is. It's hard to explain what Moreno's value to this team is. Don't make me put that picture of him and Corbin up again, because that alone is. Power of friendship alone is worth it. But
Moreno, speaking of Moreno, his projection doesn't jump off the page here. 261, 323, 382. Very similar to the hitter that he was in the first half of the season before he came back from the shoulder injury.
Why do projections not believe Gabriel Moreno is going to be a power hitter? What is it about his peripherals? What is it about him that... Because maybe I'm just delusional, but I have Gabby as being more of a power guy, right? More of like a 20 home run kind of player. And all the projections I see for him, and honestly, last year, it's not like what he did kind of backs up what I'm saying, but I just feel like as he gets better, you know, he's going to be more of a power guy. He feels like a power guy. So what is it about him that keeps his projected power numbers so low, keeps him at 8 home runs for the season next year?
It's a little hard to say with Gabby. I mean, you look back at his numbers in Double-A in 2021. This is only 32 games. He got hurt, wound up missing time, but he slashed 373, 441, 651 in the Blue Jays Double-A system. That is a guy who has some pop. I mean, a 651 slugging percentage is pretty insane, especially, obviously from a catcher. His numbers in the minors as a whole, he had a 481 career slugging percentage in the minor league. So it's not like you didn't see Gabby Moreno show some power in the minors. I think it's because, as he got closer to the majors, it seems like he started to favor his hit tool a little bit over the power.
Yeah.
We saw in
Good old Gabby
AAA.
Lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Going the other way, being a little bit more of a slap hitter type. In 2022, before he came up with the Blue Jays, he hit 315 and slugged 420 that year with Toronto's AAA team. And that's actually not very much power at all. That's actually well below kind of the average. I guess I'm looking at isolated slugging there. That's on the lower end. So more recently, we haven't seen Gabby hit for as much power. But granted, we did see him show power in the second half of the 2023 season, and we certainly saw him show power in the postseason as well. I think between that second half and the playoffs, I think he hit 9 home runs, and that was in the span of like 50, 55 games.
Yeah.
So you look at that over the course of a full season, you're like, well, that's a 15 home run player, over the course of a full season. So I still think there's some power in here. I don't expect Gabby to be a 7-8 home run a year kind of a guy for his whole career, but the projection systems are going to take a while to catch up to that. So we'll see what happens in 2024.
Well, and Eric Kratz said that's one thing that he very much likes about Gabby is the fact that he kind of takes what's given to him and doesn't try to do too much. He just tries to get that hit with especially with runners on. And I mean, we saw him have a lot of success with that last year. I get that. It just, like you said, the numbers in AA, AAA, what we've seen out of him in short stints, it feels like he has more pop to his bat than that. And it'll be interesting to see.
There's some raw power in there for sure. We saw that in the playoffs. I remember last spring training, he hit like a 450-foot home run at Salt River Fields. We were all kind of like, we sure this guy can't hit for some power? So
I mean,
it's in there for sure.
I've never in my life, and a lot of people have never ever seen, like a baseball player hit a ball like a mile foul and then the very next pitch, and not just foul, close enough foul that it had to be reviewed, and there was a whole time thing about whether or not it was fair or foul.
It was originally called a home run.
Yes. And then it was foul. And then the very next pitch he hits for a home run. I've never seen a human being ever do anything like that. So
pretty wild.
It's just incredible what he can do. Of course, on the other side of the ball, the Diamondbacks have some very good pitchers. Again, kind of all lumped relatively close together there outside of Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen kind of being the ace of the staff according to the PECOTA projections.
Yeah, PECOTA doesn't love the Diamondbacks pitchers.
Not at all.
It just doesn't. Even Gallen, a 3.71 projected ERA there. That feels a little on the high end. I can understand where it comes from. His peripherals weren't quite as good in some ways in 2023. His expected ERA at StatCast was actually over 4, just because there was a lot more loud contact against Gallen last year than there's been in years past.
There was, especially on the road.
Man. I can't believe that game in San Diego toward the end of the year. I was in San Diego to cover it, and I think it was like 6 innings, 1 run or something. And the Padres their average exit velo was like 99, and every single ball was hit on a line. There were like no ground balls whatsoever. Gallen obviously still had a very good season, but I can understand projection systems being maybe a little concerned about that heading into 2024. But yeah, other guys, also these none of these are going to feel all that great. Merrill Kelly, a 4 ERA, 4 right on the dot. Eduardo Rodriguez projected for a 4.48 ERA. That's considerably higher than what we saw over at Zips. Brandon Pfaadt, 4.51 ERA, also quite a bit higher than Zips. And they have Tommy Henry and Ryan Nelson both in the mid to high 5 range. So probably not going to get too excited about any of those numbers.
I do have a remedy to this though, and I think it's something the Diamondbacks should look into.
Sure.
Maybe they could have Brandon Pfaadt's family hack the PECOTA projections.
Clearly, yes.
The same way they hacked Fangraphs last year.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that and, weren't able to figure out the algorithm in time or something.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Okay. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Although Dan Zaborski made a really good point in that, You know, if they were hacking into the system, why would they just be hacking into it so that Brandon Pfaadt was projected for like a high 3 ERA, right? If they were going to hack into the system over at Zips, they should have made Brandon Pfaadt like the best pitcher on the planet by a wide margin, and that's not quite what we saw.
Maybe if he was in a contract negotiation, you go for that. Maybe what you're trying to do is go unnoticed, right, Jesse?
Sure,
I mean,
just test the strategy, see if it works.
In the movie,
see if you know how to do it.
I know you haven't seen Office Space, but when they decided to go through with their plan to steal fractions of a cent, it was such a small amount that nobody would notice. But if you're stealing $100 at a time, people are going to notice. So it's like you can't go in there and give Brandon Pfaadt a 1.26 ERA because someone at Fangraphs is going to go, "What the hell?" Like we gotta check into this. There's no way this is what our system said. But of course, these are the things I think about when I'm enjoying OG's brand's wonderful line of products. Of course, you can too. You can also just check out the wonderful things they have to offer, because not only do they have a gummy that fits your needs, whatever you are looking for, from micro gummies to sleep edition gummies, but they also have their brand new products. They have their live rosin OG's Naturals and their big OG's with a perforated single piece that you can break into 10 milligram slices, but it is 100 milligram whole piece that I consume all the time on my own. You can also check out the OG's Naturals, which are vegan gummies made with live rosin, available in a sweet clementine flavor. To learn more about OG's gummies and where you can find them, head on over to ogsbrands.com. Also, BetMGM, of course, is your place to go and make all of this sports stuff more fun. Right now, you can download the Sportsbook app or visit betmgm.com and sign up using our bonus code of PHNX. Deposit at least $5 into your newly created account and then place a wager in that amount of at least $5 at a standard odds price or more. Once you do, you will receive $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. The Super Bowl is the best time to get down on these crazy prop bets. We were talking about it today here at the office. Gatorade flavors, what song, Usher is going to sing. Most of these people around here don't even know Usher songs. It was very disappointing.
I certainly didn't.
Jesse didn't know that, but of course, you can get down on fun like that, and it'll make the Super Bowl even more enjoyable. So sign up for BetMGM now, get ready for the big game, and use our bonus code of PHNX. You place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the mobile application of at least $5. You will receive $158 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details, and now listen to Damon, who is calmed down a little bit, talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Of course, we appreciate you diehards for being here. If you're not a diehard, make sure to check out all of the options that you have. Become a diehard over at gophnx.com. Our game show Squeeze Play is tomorrow, and I am going to be selecting some diehards in this chat right now to be part of our game. So if you want to participate in our first edition of Squeeze Play and play against Cogs Thursday night at 7 p.m. in our Discord for a free t-shirt from the phnxlocker.com of your choosing, just drop a smiley emoji of your choosing in the chat, and I will make sure to grab someone here at the end of this segment. And of course, like I said on Twitter yesterday, you don't have to be on camera. You don't have to do anything like that. So if you are a diehard member and you want to participate in our first episode of Squeeze Play, drop that emoji. And if I get nobody, I'm just going to force some of you to do it. So that's the way Justin said that class works.
Yeah, right.
He says you just have to force students to do it sometimes. But one thing we didn't have to force is other people to like the Arizona Diamondbacks spring training cap as much as we do, because the score.com ranked all 30 MLB spring training caps now that they have launched. And according to their ranking, the Arizona Diamondbacks spring training cap comes in at number 3. This we're going to call it this baby blue badass right here. Number 3, Jesse, what were your thoughts? I mean, I was glad to see the Diamondbacks get that love, see their hat, because we really like this hat. So it was great to see it ranked as highly as it was. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great hat, and number 3,
not bad.
Hard to beat that.
You don't like the one. You don't like one of the ones above it, though.
I don't know if either of the ones in front of it are actually better. To be honest, there are some behind it that I might think are better. I don't think there's any that they have ranked higher that I think
number
are better.
2 is the Guardians hat. Here is the Cleveland Guardians hat. Pretty fire. People really, really love the Guardians logo. I get it, especially after figuring out the history and how it relates to Cleveland and everything like that. I really like it. I really dig it. But again, not a lot to it. Like the Diamondbacks hat is pretty, significantly different than all of their hats. I don't know how close this is to the Guardians' other hats, but I feel like this would be something that they already kind of have, right? Like something similar to this.
Yeah, it's not all that different from, kind of the normal look that you see from the Guardians. So it didn't feel all that unique to me, but it is a cool hat for sure. Yeah. No doubt.
And then they had this at number 1. This is the Washington Nationals. This is their new W logo that they're going to be using this season. I like it. I think it's cool, but it's very plain. It's just, what is that? Like a dark blue, and then it's a dark blue W with an outline of white and red around it. Real simple, real clean, but I like it. I just don't know if that's like the number 1 spring training cap. I would definitely put the Diamondbacks hat above that one.
It's clearly not. It's clearly not the best. And I want to know how much the Washington Nationals paid the score.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we've got these new uniforms.
Yeah.
We need you to promote them for us.
Oh, they're boring as hell.
The polls aren't looking so great. So help us out here. There's no way that that's the best hat out of all of these. I think the Nationals as a whole, their whole rebrand, I think there's some good stuff in there, but I would have preferred them to brand themselves off of DC, like make DC kind of the big thing.
I agree.
The W is like, all right, well, there's Washington, DC, there's Washington State.
I think because like the Wizards, they call it the district, right? I saw that the other night when the Diamondback, when the Suns were beating the brakes off of them. It's
like the district is cool. DC is cool. Washington, like there's another Washington, right? That exists.
Like it's gotta be weird to live in a place where every single time you have to clarify which Washington. Right, like I imagine people in North and South Carolina just don't say Carolina; they say the North or South.
Yeah,
part,
that would be pretty.
Like,
that'd be pretty weird.
Washington, and then they have to be like DC or state.
But you don't have to specify if you say DC. No one's getting confused with that.
He's right.
I've solved the problem.
But wait, there's more, because the Arizona Diamondbacks batting practice caps have leaked. And if you want to talk about some absolute fire, Jacob, would you do me a favor and provide that said fire? Look at this hat. You cannot look at this hat and not tell me that that is a gorgeous hat. I don't care what era of Diamondbacks fan you are, whether you are a new Diamondbacks fan, whether you have been here since '98, whether you staunchly believe that Sedona Red was a violation of some sort of sanctity. This hat has to appeal to everybody. This is the exact thing we were saying on the one show we did with Damon in the last, month, where we were talking about turquoise and copper coming together as friends on a hat and living peacefully. And look at this. This is such a great hat.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It absolutely is. I'm getting a little confused, honestly, with the hats. Like, how many hats are they going to unveil in like a 3-week span?
What are you doing? What?
But I think I have it straight. There's the spring training hat, which is the baby blue one we were just talking about.
Aqua, that was according to Pedro. He said MLB Shop has it listed as
Aqua. Whatever we're going to call it.
Not even going to go turquoise.
And then there's that batting practice hat, which in my opinion is the best of all of them.
Correct.
And then there's also a clubhouse hat that's been floating around. It's
just
available.
A fancy name for a hat. I don't think that that's going to be something they actually wear in the club. Could you imagine the Arizona Diamondbacks players coming in and changing hats like they're Mr. Rogers, getting home to talk to the kids? Like they come in and it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, put on the other hat. I probably shouldn't even sang that much of the song, right? But
it's
anyway,
just another. They have to call it something
cap.
else so that they have they can call it something else so that they know what to name it when they put it in the shop. They're just trying to get people to buy the thing.
I kind of like that hat. It's kind of got like some brown to it. It's got like a little like stitch, like a baseball stitch. So
it's not bad, but
the Groundhog Mama asked a good question though. Jesse, have you been to the team shop? There are so many hats in every color imaginable.
Well, I'm not saying that like I wasn't aware that the Diamondbacks sell a lot of hats. It's just all of these are being revealed right now.
Right. Well,
like, we're revealing all these hats.
So that has not been announced yet. That not has done. At least when we were talking about.
You mean the batting practice one?
Yeah,
right?
the batting practice.
Yeah, the batting practice
cap,
one.
The Diamondbacks kind of showed us first, right, on their Instagram. Right. This was from UniWatch. So UniWatch is the one with this leak. And according to my sources, that will be available in 2 weeks. So that's how long. We have some people already asking when that batting practice cap will be available. So there you go.
And then tomorrow we'll be unveiling the dugout cap, right? That's how this works. It's got to be more, right? It's not like we're done now.
This is why I handle the jerseys and the hats. He doesn't take it seriously. You need a different hat for all this stuff. Well, I mean, this is what I was talking about, right? We need merchandise. The Diamondbacks are at an all-time high potentially in popularity right now, or at least a high over the last like 15 years in popularity. So, I mean, you have to do everything you can to capitalize on it. And honestly, they have been very lacking of merchandise. They have not been providing their fans with enough stuff, and people have money in hand ready to buy this stuff. It just makes sense to provide them when the demand is so high, right?
Tim says we need to do a show with all-time top 10 hats, which I believe you just did, but you're going to have to do it again.
I already did that, but now I got to go revise it because both of these hats need to be in that list. So maybe I will figure out how to do a new one of those. Of course, we thank you guys for stopping by. We appreciate your time, and we're very glad that we could make so many of you worried with this particular show title, as worried as Perdomo made me last night with his Instagram story. So, of course, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Faj, Father Overlord Jacob on the ones and twos. You can get him at Jacob_Franklin4 because he is the fourth best Jacob Franklin. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. And in the meantime, have a great day. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when players think about my feelings before posting on Instagram.
We all silly like the mayor.